I'm joined by one of the best women's soccer players of all time, World Cup champion, Olympic gold medalist, and U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, Brandi Chastain. Brandi, thanks so much for stopping by our studio today.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's the World Cup, and you have arguably one of the most iconic moments in World Cup history. We are not going to ask you about the penalty kick against China.
Sounds good.
But I want to know, how often are you asked about that moment, and do you ever get tired of talking about it?
God, I'm asked about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think what's fascinating is the different places I go that all of a sudden someone will be like, oh my gosh, how what? You know, and then we talk about it. So it's quite often, and the great thing is it always comes back to women's soccer, which for so long it was in anonymity. So now it's kind of mainstream topic. People know about it, even if people weren't alive when it happened. They, you know, thank goodness for YouTube, you know, to relive it all the time.
That's true. That's true. Anybody can watch it anytime they want. So like we said, the Men's World Cup is going on right now. And how much are you watching? As a spectator, is there something different that you get out of watching men's soccer compared to women's soccer?
Of course I'm watching. I'm a soccer geek. This is like the best time of my life as a fan, because not only is the Men's World Cup happening, and I will watch every game, but the International Champions Cup women's tournament will be happening on the heels at the end of July, the 26th through the 29th in Miami. And so I'm going to get soccer, and more soccer, which makes me very happy. In terms of watching soccer, men's versus women, I don't look at them any differently. I coach. I do a lot of coaching now. So for me, I look at the tactics. I think about, positional play of the players. Where are they winning the ball? Where are they losing the ball? How compact or spread out? So things. I watch soccer. I've always kind of watched it from a coach's perspective, but I think I watch it more so with that in mind than I do for just the plain entertainment. Well, but watch it for the entertainment, because it's very entertaining.
Yes, it's true. This is one of the best times of every 4 years.
So good.
It's like heaven on earth for every 4 years. So leading up to this World Cup, because the U.S. men's team didn't qualify, there's so much conversation about the state of soccer, U.S. soccer. But the strength of women's soccer has been largely left out of that conversation. Why do you think that is?
Because it doesn't fluctuate. It's consistent. It's, our women's teams have always been consistently in tournaments. If we're not winning them, we're pretty darn close. And so I think the question is actually really good, because we should always be in the conversation. But we should also talk about, how it is that we're so consistent. Where does that consistency come from? And how could we potentially correlate that for our men's side, and is there any correlation at all? So, what can we do better on both sides, and how can we make those qualifications count for the men's side as well?
What do you think the perception is among women's soccer about men's soccer? Are the women concerned about men's soccer?
Well, I think as athletes, we're concerned about men's soccer, because we're really we're all in it together, to be honest with you. I feel like when soccer gets separated, men's and women's, it does a disservice to all of soccer. We're trying to do soccer justice by putting it in the mainstream. When I was growing up, it literally was a foreign sport. I mean, if you were playing soccer as an American kid, you were the anomaly. And now with my kids, they're separated by quite a few years. My older son thinks soccer is a women's game and now an American sport, because he went to all of our games, Olympics, World Cups. And now my younger son thinks soccer is an American sport, because it's always been around, it's always been in the conversation. So we've come a long way, but I think soccer needs to stick together, and that we need to have the discussions collectively as opposed to men's versus women's.
What do you think it is about the American system that American women's soccer is so much stronger than American men's soccer?
Yeah, for me,
about the system?
This is my belief, and this is not fact. I think it's my opinion, that soccer in America has a parallel path with education. And so with Title IX in 1972, that kind of equal opportunity allows women collegiate sports to have and women to have access to those sports and education. So the pathway coming up in elementary school and then middle school is you play sports, you go to school. High school, you play sports, you go to school. College, you can earn a scholarship. And so that's for boys and girls. And so then you get through your college years and now you have the potential of maybe being a professional. So in the rest of the world is if you show potential when you're a little kid, you get on the track of professional athlete. And you probably do education to a certain point and then you're done with education and now you're moving on to kind of a professional environment. And that's, I think, the difference. We all end up kind of coming to the same point with being professionals or national team players, but they're totally different pathways. And I think for our men's teams, this pathway hasn't really worked as well as this pathway for those who, don't have the educational component later on in their track.
Oh, that's really fascinating to think about.
Yeah.
One of the things that does separate the men's team and the women's team here in the United States is the pay issue. And of course, after the women won that 2015 World Cup, this was something they really started to advocate for. And a little over a year ago, they did make some strides. There was a new agreement reached, but the pay is still not equal.
Right.
How much more progress do you think needs to be done here?
Well, it honestly, the battle and the conversation goes on until it is equal. And that's a big conversation, and it's not going to be done overnight. We've seen, I've been talking about this a lot today. When we won the first World Cup in '91, it was $10 a day per diem. Super grateful to be there. $500 for winning the World Cup. Like, oh my gosh, I thought I hit
500.
Yeah, I won the lottery, But we didn't know any better, and we weren't playing because this was our career. We loved soccer. We were passionate about it. The narrative has changed, and so now it is a career, and it is a pathway, and so it should be taken as such, and the pay should be similar, if not the same. And so I think it's really difficult. I think really we have an opportunity, you have an opportunity in that chair to help support women's soccer. You work at a corporation and that supports sports in general. We talk about women's sports in a smaller scale than we do men's sports, and men haggle over tens of millions of dollars and we haggle over tens of dollars. And and so we all have a responsibility to make it right. And you just keep the noise and you keep going and you don't give up until we get there.
Did you guys ever think about fighting back then? Is that something?
Yeah, I think we talked about it. We definitely negotiated a lot of different contracts over the years, and the contracts were not specific to the team that was present at the time, but kind of looking forward into the future. And so absolutely, I think we made a lot of noise and we made a lot of people uncomfortable and we made a lot of changes and a lot of progress. And I owe that a lot to Carla Overbeck and Julie Foudy, Mia Hamm, Michelle Akers, because they were relentless. And as faces of U.S. soccer players, they did an outstanding job. And so I think without their foundational work and their guidance, this 2015 women's national team, after winning the World Cup, I don't think would have had such a strong foundation to stand on.
Wow. That's pretty amazing to think about, standing on the shoulders of the giants that came before you.
Absolutely.
Speaking about the evolution of women's soccer, it was just announced the first ever International Women's Champions Cup in Miami this summer, like you said, right after the men's World Cup. What is this tournament and what does it mean for women's soccer?
Okay, so lay it out like this. Now I'm ready to go.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a 4-team tournament, semifinal, final. We have included here from the NWSL, we have the North Carolina Courage. Right now they're undefeated in league play. They have 5 U.S. national team players on their team. Really talented, really tough team. From England, we have Manchester City, a team that has been battling for Champions League finals over the last few years. Carly Lloyd went over and played with them as well, so there's credibility there. Manchester City is putting a lot of resources into that team. We have 2 teams from France. We have Paris Saint-Germain and we have Olympique Lyonnais, who have won, I think, 11 league titles in 14 years, I believe, and have 5 Champions League titles. So these 4 teams are going to take it to the house in Miami at the Hard Rock Stadium, and they're going to play semifinal game on 26th, and then the third, fourth place, and the final game will be on the 29th. And I am so excited about this tournament because it will give, for the first time, fans a chance to see women's club soccer on an international scene. We've seen international soccer in a World Cup. We've seen international soccer in the Olympics, and we've seen international soccer, in friendlies. Those friendlies, they're fine. They're friendlies, and they don't really mean that much. These games will mean a lot. And I think they'll mean a lot because the resources and the time and energy that are being placed into women's soccer for the first time now has meaning, world meaning. So it's not just your domestic league that now will get a bolster. We'll say we are the best. We've played the other international club teams, and we are the champions. And so I see this 4-team tournament growing exponentially over the next few years. I hope in 10 years we'll be talking about the 16 or 18 teams that are playing, and the young kids that came up and saw this game for the first time and were inspired and they dreamt about playing in it, and now either they're playing in the U.S. in the NWSL or they're even playing overseas international club soccer. So I just think that this is it's a visionary, it's unique, and it will literally up the standard that needs to be set for not just the 5 national team players from each of the teams that are going to be playing, but really from those number 6 through 18 to 24, and that the standard has to go up, the coaching has to go up. We all have to examine ourselves and say, okay, we're going to be the best, and we're going to challenge ourselves against the rest of the world.
So exciting.
It's so exciting.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
Really excited to see the future of that. So before we get you out of here,
Yes.
we have to ask you about the plaque.
That's so nice.
Yes, I believe your quote was, "It's not the most flattering, but it's nice," which is very nice.
It's the thought that counts. That's what I should have said.
There you go. So there've been some comparisons between that and then the bust for Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm sure you saw those. So we have it here for you. Which is worse, do you think?
Oh gosh, they're both so unsatisfactory.
Unsatisfactory. That's a good word. Yeah, I think both of you are.
Well, I'd say his hair is quite. His hair is looks good. His hair looks good. So I'm gonna have to say mine is probably less of a replica than his, but his is not good either. Oh, sorry, Cristiano.
So I know they're making you a new one. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I'm grateful. To be honest with you, as I've said to the folks over at the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, the point of the night is not a plaque. The point of the night is recognizing consistent effort over a period of time that has impacted the Bay Area and the culture of sports. But on top of that is the work that the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame does for at-risk youth, and the work that they do is almost immeasurable and so necessary. We have kids in our communities that need attention, they need support, and they find that through sports. And so because of nights like that evening and wonderful gala that they put on, they earn money to help those kids. So that's really the most important thing. And we will do the plaque. We're actually, I'm gonna do a shout out here that thing may be going up for auction. So get ready with your bid. So the money, I believe what's going to happen is we're going to split it. We'll to the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame and to my little Bay Area Women's Sports Initiative where we help young girls in the after school program. And then we'll all benefit, and somebody will own that thing, and maybe we could put it up and throw some darts at it.
That is fantastic. We will have to stay tuned for that. Brandi Chastain, thank you so much for stopping by and giving us a good pep talk about all the exciting things that are happening in women's soccer. We appreciate it.